we're gonna go and watch the next video, which is going to be Pod Save America. I literally never watch Pod Save America. I think I tried once and it was relatively annoying, and I didn't really get anything out of it. But really, I was just looking for a video to see what libs thought about the most recent the
All right, I'm
most
here with John Fabra
recent
because last
Democratic primaries. So I'm assuming they'll talk about it in here, Jasmine Crockett and stuff. So we'll see.
night was election night in America. We had elections in.
Oh, and I guess to set that up a little bit in terms of my views on Jasmine Crockett and Talarico or whatever. Um, both of them are, I would say, uh, not my ideal candidate. I trust them less than other sort of like progressive voices or whatever. I would say Talarico is slightly better. Jasmine Crockett, like while she's a really good speaker, and I think she's a very compelling speaker, she has very little like she's unable to translate that into political victories because of her lack of actual convictions and substance. In terms of like what she's fighting for. I never really understand like what her policy positions are on stuff, and I think that she's kind of like a little bit donor captured. So, but anyway, so I'm a little bit happy with the results that, in case you're unaware, Talarico won the primary. I think he has a better chance of flipping the Senate in Texas blue, but that's still potentially a long shot. It's better. I'd say it's like 50-50.
in Texas, North Carolina, Arkansas. We are going to focus on Texas because there were two huge Senate primaries that will come to potentially decide the Senate. On the Democratic side, James Talarico defeated Jasmine Crockett by about 7 points with 95% of the vote in. Let's look at a
Pretty
clip from
decisive victory.
Talarico's victory speech, and then, John, I want to talk to you about the race.
Let's hear
Let's
what
roll the clip.
Talarico has to say.
This is a people-powered movement to take on this broken, corrupt political system. This is truly a campaign of, by, and for the people.
Good words.
We are not just trying to win an election. We are trying to fundamentally change our politics. And it's working.
I hope so.
The number of young people who showed up to vote in this election is unprecedented. The number of Texans who have never voted before but showed up in this election is unprecedented. The number of independents and Republicans
That
who
is a
voted
good
in
sign.
this Democratic primary is
That's exactly why I think he's a better candidate against to like in order to defeat the Republicans.
unprecedented. This
He's activating other donor or
this is proof
other bases
that there
of
is
support.
something happening in Texas.
All right, John, what do you make of his big win?
I think one of the biggest cliches in politics right now is that Democrats want someone who fights because voters like strength. And I think that cliche suffers from a failure to define what fight means in the context of politics. Fighting can mean rhetorically kicking the shit out of Donald Trump and Republicans in a way
So that's Jasmine Crockett. She rhetorically beats the shit out of them, but she never has the policy to follow up with.
that gets you attention and satisfies and sometimes thrills partisan Democrats like us, who are always going to vote
These guys.
Democrat.
I knew that they would love
Fighting can also
Jasmine.
mean kicking the shit out of rich and powerful interests that
Yeah.
are running the country and that are screwing people over so that you are fighting
That's the fight that I'm in for. Kicking the shit out of billionaires. Like if someone ran a campaign on like we're just gonna let you like every week we're going to take one of our billionaires and we're just going to put them in the stocks. Like we're going to put them up on the town square and you can just come up and just throw tomatoes at them and like just yell at them like and just like tell them what a piece of shit they are. Like if someone ran on that policy platform, like I think that they could win over, the entire country.
them and fighting on behalf of people who feel like they are not being heard, like they've been screwed over by their government, like they can't trust their government. And I think those two things are different. And I think And I don't want to oversimplify it, but Jasmine Crockett's
He's given bummer energy though. He's really given bummer energy. Like I don't know. I think that he was rooting for Jasmine Crockett if I had to guess.
campaign was very much the first kind of fighting. It was mostly about how she takes on Donald Trump. It's mostly about how she's tough
We're
and
past that
Republicans
now.
don't like her, and so she's gonna,
We're
she's
way
gonna
past that
kick the
now.
shit out of Trump and all that. And I think the risk of that kind of campaign is it also makes it about you and you beating Republicans and you beating Donald Trump. And what voters actually care about is what's going on in their lives and who's going to fight for them. And I think that what Talarico did
Okay, but it's both. They care about both. Voters, like especially Democratic primary voters, care about both. And they seem to think that there's some like difference here, that like the person who fights for your individual needs and what you want is not going to fight back on Trump. But that's not how the average voter sees it. The average voter thinks that the person who will fight for me and will fight for my material conditions is going to be the one who does fight back against Trump. And that's where Jasmine Crockett got kind of screwed, is she thought that by just trying to fight against Trump, like people like would think that that means that she's going to fight against Trump, like by rhetorically fighting against Trump. She thought that that's all she needed to do. But people thought, well, she's not really talking about the billionaires. She's not really talking about APAC. Like, she's not really showing that she's going to fight against these entrenched interests. And if she's not going to fight against those, how is she going to fight against Trump? Like, and I think that that's where these two might be a little bit confused. Like, they're not one or the other. It's like if you fight for the people, then people will think you will fight against Trump, especially in Democratic primary.
was, and when we heard that a little bit in that victory speech, is he talked about not just winning an election but changing politics and upending the system. And it's still pretty. I mean, he talked a lot in his campaign about, like, even though he's very religious, he talked about like Jesus going into the temple and flipping over tables, and
He
like
is
he
very like
talked about like fighting.
he's very like well, I don't know, like choir boy coded to me. Talarico is like or like who are those people who like go down the aisle like holding those like candles or whatever? Like he reminds me of one of those guys. Like if he put on the robes, like I could see him doing that. He definitely did that like at some point as a kid. Like I would put money on it.
Rich and powerful interests. And so I think that helped him. But I think I just think that the view that we just have to say bad things about Donald Trump and Republicans, and like the more you do that,
Pass
and
that.
the tougher it is, the stronger you are, and the better off you are. I just don't think it's borne out by actual
I'm
elections.
so happy. I'm so happy we're finally past it, man. Everybody thought if we just talk about Donald Trump enough, then we're gonna get elected. And finally, they're like, okay, I guess that doesn't work. Like, I guess we gotta talk about people's material conditions. Like, oh, we gotta improve people's lives now. Talk about how we're gonna improve people's lives. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, that's what government is. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's this one's a really hard one to analyze because there are two dimensions of
They're
analyzing.
so they're so buttered, dude. They wanted Jasmine Crockett to win so bad.
There's who voted, like in what percentages, like what parts of the country, what parts of the state, and then there is why they voted. And we don't have a good answer why people voted because there are no exit polls. For even as imperfect as they are, they can tell you some
Exit
basic
polls, man.
things. Like I think a lot of the way this race was framed
I don't need exit polls. I got my gut. I think my gut knows better than exit polls.
originally was framed as liberal versus moderate, and then that was a very imperfect thing because actually it's kind of the same positions, and maybe technically on this few issues, Talarico's actually slightly to the left of
Yeah.
Crockett, mainly because he's a
probably
state
why he
senate,
won.
state rep. She's a congressman. Like interest would give money to her, but didn't
He was probably perceived that way, and that's probably why he won.
don't like that's all sort of a theoretical conversation.
In terms of like electoralism, also, and these guys they might be starting to get it as well, but Democrats always had this idea that like pivoting to the center and moderation would always be the better candidate, but or like would always do better in the actual vote against the Republicans or whatever. Um, But Americans' concept of politics is so distorted. Nobody has any clue of like what actual left-right dynamics are. Like if you ask the average person, they would say that they think that Kamala Harris is like the most left communist person who has ever ran for president. Like they literally think like Kamala Harris is like a communist. And then you ask them about Bernie Sanders and they're like, oh, he seems pretty cool. He's like, he's probably like a moderate. Like, I like some of his policies. So they think he's like a moderate. Like they literally think Kamala Harris is left of Bernie Sanders. And that's where like you cannot like ever this strategy was always doomed to fail, this pivot to the like mythical moderate or whatever. Um, but like I think we're finally starting to see like that rhetorical device like fail, and that's good. We're fine like because now we can start instead of talking about instead of talking about like who's like pivoting to the middle or whatever, we can just talk about improving people's material conditions, which it will be a left-leaning position or whatever. Um, and yeah, I just we need to keep that momentum going. Like nobody should ever be pivoting to the center. That's failed 3 times in a row at this point. Like we got to stop doing that.
But very essentially the same. Like, this is not a
I didn't hear him.
Bernie candidate versus a new Democrat or anything like that. It's two kind of like down the line on politician Democrats. And then, so that didn't really work, even though it's pretty clear that Talarico's attitudinally more moderate. Like he talks about reaching out to the Republicans, and Crockett is known for taking on Trump. And then the other question is
Rhetorically
between a fighter and the more electable candidate. And that I think that also fails here because we just don't know. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have an exit poll question that says, "Is electability your number one issue?" And then
they probably still think that Jasmine Crockett is more electable. I do not think so. They can't get rid of it. I was just saying we need to get rid of this shit. If you ever hear someone say that a certain like if you ever see any of these centrist liberal types say that like this person is more electable, always assume it's the exact opposite. They are the least electable. Like Gavin Newsom right now, they're talking about him for his, like his anointment to presidency that he's going to have in the future or whatever. Like he is not electable. He is not electable whatsoever. Like they I don't know. They're just and at least I think the people are starting to understand that their ideas of what's electable or not is bullshit.
Other people who prize electability, do they overwhelmingly pick one candidate or the other? We don't have that data. And I was really struck listening to Sarah Longwell's focus group podcast episode this past week where she talked to Democrats about this.
The Pod Save America bros? Oh, Gavin Newsom. I was like, why are they texting you? I thought maybe they had like a list or something. Um, oh yeah. I mean, Gavin Newsom, ugh, I swear if they do to him what they did to Kamala and just anoint him the primary winner, like I'm going to lose my mind. Like we're like it's done so. Like this country's over if that happens.
Race, and everyone cared about electability. They just had different definitions of it. And Talarico supporters looked at Talarico and said, you can reach out to Republicans.
Yeah, we do have different definitions of it. Your definition is wrong and my definition is right.
He talks about his religion. He's someone who could persuade my MAGA curious uncle. And so he's the more likely one. Then you talk to Crockett supporters and they weren't saying like, man, I just want
talk about it like it's a sexuality. That's so funny.
Who's going to take on Trump. They were saying, I think she's more electable because she's tough. She's not afraid. She can generate attention. She can fire people up. And like that was their definition for electability. So we don't really know that. Like what you can take, like when I look at this race, the way Talarico won is pretty clear. He did very well with Latino voters. Like we don't have exit polls, but you can look at how he overwhelmingly won in the Latino heavy counties.
Is Talarico Catholic?
Valley, and then how he did in the Latino heavy precincts in major cities like Fort Worth, Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston.
Austin,
like that's the path. Yeah.
Yeah, like he blew out the cities.
Yeah.
He blew them out,
other
dude.
than Dallas.
Other than Dallas, which is their home base. But yeah, no, I think it is hard to get into the demographics and what different people want. He also won a lot of the.
They love their demographics, dude.
A lot of the younger voters.
The overanalyzing, that's just They have to do that because like the obvious answer is the simple answer, and if it's too simple, then they don't have a job really. So, um, but the simple answer is just ask people what they want, give people what they want. That's the simple answer.
And again, you don't have exit poll data, but like in just counties where they're generally younger counties,
College towns,
yeah, he was doing well there as well.
And he blew out Travis County, which is where Austin is. It's his home base.
Yes, right.
But also a lot of college students.
Blew it
Well,
out,
the other
man.
thing from that Longwell focus group, and also from all the polls, from all the reporting on the ground, is this was an extremely contentious race online, and
Oh
most
yeah,
Texans
the identity
who went
politics.
to go vote in this primary really liked both candidates.
Yeah.
And
that-
which is
and both-
and that is a
Are they going
lesson
to talk
not
about the
for
identity
all
politics?
of
They
us.
better.
We can go. Everyone can keep fighting online. There's plenty more primaries that'll have you fight online even harder, maybe.
They're
But
probably not
it
even
is a
going to
good
talk
lesson for
about
the
it.
candidates and the campaigns to fucking shut that off. And like the fights that are going on online, like Talarico largely did not pay attention to those, and the
Good
Crockett
strat.
campaign very much did. I don't even think the Crockett
Yeah,
campaign
okay. So what they're trying to say, and they're being very, very obtuse about it. I don't really know why they're being so obtuse about it. Is uh, they really Jasmine Crockett's campaign, I think, really leaned into like identity politics, is my understanding. And maybe I'm wrong. I didn't pay a ton of attention to this, but online it seemed like there was a lot of talk about, you know, like not respecting, black women and all that sort of stuff. And I think that they just kind of identity politics from Democratic establishment, like politicians who don't feel like they're actually going to fight for, like, I don't know. I just think that that era of like holding up identity as a shield is kind of a little bit over, or maybe not completely over, but like um, it's over. It's not ever going to be as pertinent as it was before because like we just don't have the time. We don't have the time. We're living through fascism. We don't have the time to deal with like with like all these like identity politics like arguments of like, oh, he said I'm like, I thought I was going against a uh average black man or whatever, like, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope that we're getting, further and further away from the peak of just identity politics for identity politics sake, or for not standing for anything real sake, I guess.
attention to them really mattered. But like, Jasmine Crockett talking about Liz Smith towards the end of the race. I don't, I don't think that I don't think most Texans knew about that, first of all, and if they did, they'd be like, huh?
I didn't know
And
about that.
At the very
Her-
least, you can
per
say
se.
it is like
Yeah.
it is taking you off the message that you need if you want to win a race.
Pod Save America breaking news is brought to you by
ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter. What's the latest trend in
I
hiring?
don't want to get
And
recruited for
Paxton
Pod
in
Save
West New York
America,
was
bro.
the
Probably
most
kill
expensive
myself.
Senate primary in history and one of the nastiest. And because no candidate got to 50%, guess what? It's not over yet. They
They're
have
talking about
another
the
2.5
Republican
months
side.
worth of campaigning.
Amazing.
And to give you a sense of what Texans are in for, I want to show you this
I don't know
ad.
if I care that much about the Republican primaries, so once I'll let it play, but once I finish this boss, I'm probably going to change it.
Ad that the Cornyn folks ran right before the primary.
It's voting time, so let's cut through the bullshit. Crooked Ken Paxton cheated on his wife. She's divorcing him on biblical grounds. So
Biblical
now Paxton's
grounds.
wrecking another home, sleeping around with a married mother of 7. And remember this, Crooked Ken has increased his net worth by as much as 7,000% since taking office.
I'm sorry, this is hilarious. Like, political ads in America are so funny. They always follow the exact same format, and they're always so like, fuck this guy. This guy sucks. Like, he'd kill your mom if he got in the same room as her. And I'm just like, I don't know. We've seen better ways to do this, like Zoran Mamdani showed. Just to ask people what they want and then tell them you will give them what they want. Like, it's really not that hard.
Sections in office, even more troubling. Paxton gave millions of Texas tax dollars to left-wing organizations, including the Montrose Center, that
Based.
hosts drag queen shows.
Hell yeah.
Gender-affirming services to kids as young as
Drag
7.
queen in every kindergarten. That's my policy position.
I'll think of the Paxton dirty deeds we don't know about yet. The
Uh,
wife cheater and fraud, or the Texas workhorse?
oh,
Senator
badass.
John Cornyn is endorsed by the
Look at him. Look at that hat.
voted
Look at
for
those
President
jeans.
Trump 99% of the time. Cornyn
He's a
got
big
the
he's
vote
a big old cowboy boy.
Finish the damn wall. Texans
So
know
masculine.
what to do.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message. Join my team and give today.
In a result that surprised a lot of people, Cornyn actually did better than Ken Paxton. People assume Ken Paxton would get more votes. Cornyn did better.
Ken Paxton's
Like a
a
percentage point,
legacy
maybe?
name. I
Listen,
know
it
him.
was very far
at
in
least.
distant third. He's now out of it, so it'll be Cornyn and Paxton to the end. What do you make of this race? And
I
does it
gotta
give you
be fucking
concern
this
that
up,
Cornyn,
this
who is
boss.
perceived by most to be the more
You know,
likable of the
people
two.
don't give me enough credit, okay? It's hard to both play World of Warcraft at the same time as give commentary. And I do think that someday when I have more people in here, I will probably have to give up playing World of Warcraft so I can just give pure commentary. Um, but that day is not today. Wow, thank you. I do hard things.
Who did better than people expected.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't.
Anyway, pod save, they weren't as annoying this time as usual. They were being like little Debbie Downers about Talarico winning, but um, I don't know. They gave me enough space. Well, actually, I guess I probably did get a little annoyed with them. Who am I lying? But uh, anyway.